So hello and welcome back to the 7th episode of the season on the Champ.ie podcast ahead of Sandown's Tingle Creek weekend, of course. And we also have the John Durkan chase and action from Cork to preview on Sunday. I'm joined as always by Mr. Mike Vince from SAS, Thomas Coyle, who's got a fresh looking haircut, and Andrew Blair White once again, who is flaunting a Blackrock College jacket. I think he might fill you in a little bit more.
And let's make it for everyone. It is not Blackrock College. Because I've been pinched that before. I didn't go to Blackrock.
I thought it was a cricket jacket there for a moment, but listen, lads, plenty of action to discuss this weekend. We're going to get straight into it and go into Saturday's card at Sandown. The 150 is the Henry VIII Grade 1 Novice Chase. It's a good looking renewal this year. All Mankind has drifted in the betting since it was first priced up. Mike, you might give us a ground update on Sandown first of all, and maybe give us your take on the race.
Yeah, it's chasers at Sandown on Saturday that are very much at the forefront. The hurdles track's gone bottomless because they had 11 millimetres of rain on Thursday. No surprise, but the chase course will not ride too bad. Good to soft in places. Possibility Friday morning might bring a little bit dry thereafter. So it's certainly not going to turn up as badly as some people would have wanted. It's a really good renewal of the Henry VIII because if you just look at the 6 runners, they all won last time. Probably the Harry Fry horse, Phoenix Way, will go to post as the outsider. But there's a case certainly you can make out for any of the front 4. All Mankind, Hitman, GA Law, and also Eldorado Allen. And obviously, if you're in with the Tizard team, you'll be buoyed by the news that they got a couple of winners at Wincanton on Thursday. So it's a very good race. The Tingle Creek is, of course, all about Altior, with the Nichols pair in opposition. We're going to hear from Nicky Henderson in a moment about Altior. But certainly as far as the Novice Chase is concerned, this is as good a renewal as I can remember because, as I say, even Phoenix Way is one from one. You could, in theory, make out a case for all 6 of them.
Just a show of betting here very quickly. 9-4 All Mankind, Hitman 9-4. Eldorado Allen has come in for support, and I'm not surprised. He's 7-2 from 9-2. Gala, Gavin Sheen, of course, back in action now, and he takes the ride on Gala. He didn't ride him the last day, of course, at Wincanton. He's 11-2. Tamarack de Matan 9-1, and Phoenix Way. Andrew, I'll come to you because I think we're starting the Eldorado Allen fan club. I believe you're a fan of this horse as well. And of course, we flagged him up. Well, I put him up in the Anti-Post Monday videos on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge at 20-1 for the Arkle. Whether he's that class, I suppose he'll take a big step forward if he is to be an Arkle contender. If he wins this, he'll have to do so. But I thought out of all the runners and what we've seen of these horses, his jumping was the best. I thought he was going to be the one to beat here.
Yeah, look, I think he's got an excellent chance. Personally, I think the fact that he was able to jump well behind Gumball at Cheltenham last time, Gumball and All Mankind would be similar running styles and bold front runners in their own right. Look, the form of All Mankind's run around Warwick is proven to be very good. Zanza won a competitive handicap last week at Newbury, and the horse third was Stolen Silver, who was only just beaten in a Novice Chase at Bangor. But I do get what you mean, that he maybe got a bit of a freebie out in front. Hitman, that race at Foss last cut apart a bit, and the same with, it could be said about Gallow's win at Wincanton last time. So maybe the strongest form in the race is Eldorado Allen. He does have to give his Aintree market rivals a bit of weight, which would, I suppose that has to be bared in mind. But I think at the prices, he probably is the best bet.
Yeah, just Thomas, actually, I think I spoke to you earlier, Tom, about this. There seems to be no shortage of pace in this race. And would Gala maybe be inclined to harass maybe All Mankind? You know, would he concede the lead? Because certainly he's coming back in trip, and you'd think he'd have to be up there with the pace at least.
Yeah, the pace angle is going to be very, very interesting. This, like, All Mankind is going to be handy. Hitman the last day was keen as well, so he's not going to be hanging around either. Gala, as you said, but he was, as you said, he was running over further. It's the first time he's coming back to 2 miles. So, but he has form on soft ground, so he's going to make it a test of stamina, and it could set up for Eldorado Alan. The only thing I'm a bit worried about was that day in Cheltenham. That was breakneck pace that Gumball set off, as Andrew has said. I don't know, like, I know he's won well at the end, but it was a slog. It was a hard race. There was a lot of horses tired in behind. It's only 3 weeks ago. That'd be my kind of main thing. I wouldn't fancy All Mankind as well. Like, at the start of the season, they went for a hurdle. He was bet by Botox Has and the Pinkin, who ran last week in a handicap. The Pinkin, I think, was second. I actually think I'll get a sneaky one. I think that was my next best there last week. Was it there, Barry? 33-1. Yeah, just that one. But the fact that they went hurdling, it didn't work out. He was third. 2 weeks later, they've gone to chasing route. He's won well, but maybe the race wasn't as strong as it was. But yeah, it's an interesting race. For me, definitely the best horse in it is Eldorado Alan, and the race could set up for him. So if Cheltenham hasn't taken too much out of him, he probably looks the pick here on form, and he's at a decent price. Look, he's given them weight, as Andrew says, but the others are 4-year-olds. It's very hard for 4-year-olds to give, like, he knows a lot more. He's a stronger horse as well. But just the way it might set up for him, he's going to track them. Robbie Power will sit back. He rode a great race today on Darlac. I actually seen it there at lunchtime. So look, he's no better man in the plate than Robbie Power. So he'll stalk the pace, and I'd say it could fall apart for him.
Yeah, I think so. I think with the pace, with All Mankind, I suppose if he was taken on early, would he fold? Hitman, he's only had the one run. It was interesting. Nichols said obviously that he was going to, well, he said that he was going to keep him over hurdles this year, and they haven't wasted time getting him over fences, but just worry maybe a little bit about his experience. Eldorado Alan has had a couple of runs over fences. Gala coming back in trip. I just think it's absolutely set up for Eldorado Alan, and I might as well say it now, lads. He's my nap of the weekend at 7-2. We'll just get it in there early. We'll come on to the Tingle Creek, which is a big race on the Saturday at Sandown. Altior, of course, returns here. And interesting, we have an Irish runner actually here, Pat Fahey's Castle Grace Paddy. Really surprised to see him line up in here, but a quick show of betting. 4-2-5 Altior. Politologue is the champion chase winner, of course. 7-2 Harry Skelton takes the ride on him. Grenadine and Harry Cobden 5-1. Rouge Viv, who was impressive at Cheltenham last time out, he's an 8-1 shot, and Brewing Up a Storm 20-1. Castle Grace Paddy 33-1. Mike Vince, thoughts on Altior? Is he the force of old? Will he be the force of old? And if he is, sure, he surely has to win, doesn't he?
Well, rather than hear from me, is he as good as ever, is a question I'd put to Nicky Henderson.
I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. As I say, in the beginning of March last year, we were very, very happy where we were and looking forward to the champion chase. And it was just one of these really frustrating niggles that bit us literally with a week to go, and that was tragic because he was favourite for the champion chase, regain his crown. Well, not regain it, retain it. He is the best 2-miler that there's been around for the last few years. He took over from Sprinter, and I'd like to think he can get that back. Sprinter did it once. He went into the wilderness for 2 years and managed to fight it back. So, yes, we lost it, but not because there was anything subpar about it. It was just a very, very annoying splint. He's definitely a long way ahead of what he was going into Ascot last year, because we've had a racecourse gallop at Newbury, and he has done. He'd be miles straighter than he was, as I say, at Ascot last year. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. No, I mean, unless we have one in soft ground. He's beaten Politologue in very soft ground. Even when was certainly one day at Newbury when he beat him very, very easily, and I was literally changing my mind every 5 minutes whether to run or not. But we needed to run. That was in the Game Spirit about 2 years ago, and it was very soft. And that he could cope with soft ground, but 2 mile 5 against a horse like Sandown, no, he wasn't ready for that.
I think the one thing you've got to worry about with Altior is how old is he? He's 10, he's going to be 11, he's giving age away. And the young pretenders are Grenatin and Rouge Vif. Grenatin impressive at Exeter, but the danger's got to be the tried and proven Politologue. Yeah, he was perhaps a bit fortunate to win the champion chase because it was a race that totally fell apart. And of course, Defi Desoy ran the first of his 2 stinkers in that. Not sure whether Rouge Vif would like much more rain around. I think he'll win Altior. I think he's got to. I honestly believe back over 2 miles around here, the vibes from Seven Barrows are strong. But the great thing for everybody here is, and it's not always been the case in the Tingle Creek, is that this is going to be no cakewalk. This is a proper Tingle Creek. There's depth in it. But Altior for me, because I think the great thing is the Sandown's chase course has avoided the getting absolutely soaked with Grenatin as the danger.
Thomas Coyle, I think you were guilty of doing a bit of sniggering when I mentioned Grenatin potentially making up into a champion chase contender before Exeter. First impressions when I look back at the race, I was thinking, he only barely got over the line. But I watched back the race 2 or 3 times since, and he was a free-going sort last year. I think he did settle a little bit better, but he did do a lot early in his race. I think he jumped well. This obviously is a big step up now again. But the one thing he does do is stay, and would Sandown suit him with the stiff straight at, if he was in a position, we know Altior says certainly, but Grenatin was the one that interested me. I think obviously on ratings he's a lot to find, but I think he can, and I think he's improving. Very interesting actually, Paul Nichols's comments pre-season was, he was absolutely beaming that this horse had so much improvement in him. Made a mistake at a vital stage in the Grand Annual last year, but stayed on well to the line. If he was to improve, he's only 6, 5-1. I think he's a danger here.
Yeah, no, you got it right that day in Exeter. I didn't believe you for much of it. But the one thing that's going to stand to him, that run will stand to him compared to the other 2 in the market as well, which will be a major factor. Personally, I think Altior will win. He's only been bet once over fences by the famous surname that we tried to keep knocking, but he kind of put himself up there, but I still don't think should be the highest rated horse. Politologue, as Mike said, the Queen Mother fell apart last year, and he picked up the pieces. Rouge Viv won well in Cheltenham as well. He'll have the run, but Mike says that Castlegrace Paddy, we'll have a quick word on him because he's the Irish angle. Look, he probably doesn't deserve to be the outsider. He bet A Plutard the last day in Navan. He actually seems to be a bit of a Navan specialist, to be honest. He's won his last 2. He won't mind the ground if it gets heavy either. The 2 days in Navan were heavy. It's interesting that Brian Cooper is going over to ride him as well. So I'm sure he would have had a nice book of rides on Saturday. So look, fair play to the Fahis for having a crack. I definitely don't think he should be the outsider. I definitely think he will beat 1 or 2 of them. And he could get some nice prize money for them. He's not a bad horse now, so he's not. But I think Altior is he usually wins. He's, as I said, he's only been bet once over fences, so I can see him having one more good year.
Yeah, Andrew Blair, White thoughts?
Yeah, look, it's a decent race. It's a very interesting race. It's not a race, though, that appeals to me in any way from a betting perspective. I'd agree with Thomas. I think Altior is the most likely winner, but I couldn't be backing him at odds on with his age, and he wasn't quite himself last year, personally, especially after that surname run. I'd love Castlegrace Paddy to run well, but realistically he's got no chance of winning the race, I'd have thought, based on form. I was quite surprised to not see him running in the Hilly Way on Sunday. They've obviously decided their prize money's worth a stab in this race. If you were to pin me down to a selection, I probably would say Politologue. I think people love to trample form.
Runs well fresh.
Yeah, he runs well fresh. He's won this race before. He won a champion chase by 9 lengths or whatever it was. I know it did cut apart, but I believe he probably should be 3-1, and he's currently 9-2, 5-1. So I think he's probably a point or 2 bigger than he maybe should be. So
Are we completely, I suppose, underestimating Rouge Fiv's chances before we move on? I know, Mike, you did mention the ground, and we spoke to Gavin Sheehan early in the season. He said he knew he was beaten in the Arkle after a fence. Just doesn't sort of act on that ground, and I suppose with the update, 8-1. It's probably only one way he's going to go in the market. 1:30 at Aintree, lads. We're going to come on now to Aintree. 2 races to preview here. Is the Becher Chase at 1:30. It's a Grade 3 Le Brol, which is the 2019 National Hunt Chase winner. I remember Jamie Codd gave it a mother and father of a ride. I think it was to beat Discorama, Andrew Blair White, am I right?
Yeah, unfortunately so. One of my more grim festival memories, let's just put it that way.
He's 5-1, Le Brol. Kimberlite Candy 11-2. Walk in the Mill, who's a bit of an entry specialist, 6-1. Ramses the Tay 8-1. Yala Enki 9-1. Kustar Sivola is 10-1. Give Me a Copper 10-1. Manila Celebration is 12-1. Joe Farrell 14-1 and a 16-1. The rest. Andrew, while we're with you, pick us out a big price winner to beat you.
It's a hard race to look at. Obviously, it's a very open race. I know that a lot of supporters come for Lebroy. He's not a horse I could be backing at his price, though. He's been very underwhelming now since that National Hunt Chase. I think that took an awful lot out of him as a horse. He was well backed in the Kim Muir last year, didn't raise a gallop at all. I know he's back down to an attractive mark, but he didn't take a almighty liking for these fences in this race last year, I didn't think. Look, coming into this race, he wouldn't be the type of horse I'd usually back, but I think Ramses Tatay probably has a fairly safe each-way angle in this race at around 8-1. He won at Cheltenham last time out, beating Yala Enki. He's off a mark 153. I know the National's been the long-term aim since he ran in the race, I think 2 years ago. He was a young horse back then. They exploited a few novice hurdles with him last year. Ran actually all right in what looks like a red-hot Albert Bartlett last year as well. So he seems to have an awful lot going for him. Hopefully now that he's a bigger, stronger horse, he might take to the National fences a little bit better than that run in the National, where I think the jockey's reins broke as well. So nothing went right that day. And I think he has a fairly safe each-way chance in this at 8-1.
Yeah, I thought he was good, Mike. You caught up with David Pipe earlier in the week, but I did think he was good at Cheltenham. Obviously, acts on soft ground, wasn't crucified. I mean, he's only got up 4 pounds, and as Andrew said, you'd have to think maybe is the National in the back of their minds.
I think it's fallen in the back of their minds. Yeah, let's hear from David Pipe, who has always believed that this is a marathon steeplechaser. And of course, the Pipe team have got a good record in this race because they've got Leon Rouge in it, which more in a moment. But also, of course, they have won a National.
I keep thinking he's older than what he is. Always been a good horse, loves soft ground, and battled extremely well at Cheltenham the other day. He's in good form. He's come out of the race well. Obviously, he ran in the Grand National last year. It does say that he didn't complete. At Canal Turn the second time, he made a bad mistake and actually one of his reins broke. So he did actually finish the rest of the race on one rein, but they said he didn't complete, but he did. And obviously, going back to Aintree the second time, some remember it and some don't like it as much as others. I think he'll take to it. As I say, he's in great form. If he does take to it, then he must be in with a great chance. Look, he's scored nicely at home, and hopefully, because of the softer ground, I know it is over a shorter distance than the National, but because of the softer ground, they won't go as quick, and he'll get in his comfort zone and hopefully jump well. Yeah,
he's Ramses Tatay's a horse that I like. I find myself agreeing with Mr. Blair White reverentially. VIII Rouge is a remarkable character. 4 times has run in this race and has jumped 202 Grand National fences, which is a record. There will be inevitably some support for the Nichols horse, because let's remember, Give Me a Copper was one of the leading players, expected to be one of the leading players in the National that never was in April of this year, having won that Badger Beer race at Wincanton. And my fancy for the National was Kimberlite Candy. before, of course, everything got called off. But I just think he might need it. I'm in the Ramsey's to tie camp as well. But I think it's a good renewal. I think, maybe not a maximum field. But if Ramsey's to take chance, bearing in mind the ground's gone soft, I think he'll take some beating.
Yes, 3 votes for Ramsey's to tell. One I did think actually was interesting before we come on to Tom's selection was ASO. He's obviously come in for support. We all know Saturdays, Venetia Williams, soft ground. Thomas, did you think he was interesting, or what is your selection in the race?
He was one of my selections, to be honest. Yeah, he's back. You just look at him, he's running some high-class races. He's actually £3 less than his last winning mark now, so he's back down to where he's competitive. The one thing is, he's never won over 3 miles. That is the only thing. 2.5 miles seems to be his best trip. He is getting older, so hopefully he might stay. Look, he's usually a good safe jumper, so you'd imagine he'll take to the fences. I do like him. The other one I like is Gimme a Copper. I actually was in Atlaka 5 years ago when he won his Point to Pint. Dunner Boy ran for me, Jamie Codd rode for him, but I actually was there when he won for the Coffees, when he won his maiden. Big strapping horse. He's obviously had a lot of problems because he hasn't had much racing. But if you look at it, any time, I think his last 4 or 5 runs, he's always been single figures. He's always fancied. As Mike said, he won the Badger Ale. So look, he's got a nice weight off 10-13. He's a good man on his back with Sam Twiston Davis. I'd imagine I remember him winning that day. He was a gorgeous big horse, so I can imagine he's going to take well to them fences. So they were my kind of 2 each way angles, were ASO and Gimme a Copper.
The Many Clouds Chase, well named, grade 2, over 3 miles and 1 furlong at Aintree. It's the 240. Santini makes his reappearance and Jeremiah McGrath takes the ride. Mike, you caught up with Nicky?
Yeah, and he's not totally. He has some reservations about this. Let's hear from him.
He takes an awful lot of getting ready because he takes a huge amount of work. I sort of have a few reservations here. I don't think Aintree's the greatest track for him. He's a big horse that loves to gallop and gallop. It's a good competitive field. His first run last year wasn't awe-inspiring at Sandown in that graduation race. I hope he's not going to do that to us again. Then he woke up all along and he won the Cotswold and he was second in the Gold Cup. But that's a different ball game, sort of 3 and a bit round Cheltenham rather than 3 miles round Aintree. But he has to start somewhere, and there really is nowhere else.
So you may not be totally convinced by that. If Native River's fit, bearing in mind how long he's been off, you've got to remember he is now 10, but he's still lightly raced. But this is, there's nothing younger than 8 in this field. Frodon will lead them a merry dance. We know that. I don't think Frodon will get home over well, I'm not sure the track suits Frodon either, to be honest. I'd be minded to chance Native River here against Santini and Frodon because the horse is all quality, so lightly raced. If he's straight enough first time, and obviously the week has shown that Tizol horses are getting into some sort of form, I think he'll win. But it's going to tell us a lot for the winter, this race.
He said that the track won't suit. Nicky has said that the track may not suit, but Santini is a course winner, and I know there's only a small field, but Thomas, there's no shortage of pace here, and with the ground coming soft, would that be a small bit of a worry maybe for Frodon when he is, I suppose, extended over the 3 miles and 1 furlongs? And would it set it up for something like Santini,
I think it will. Frodon, we know he's one way of running. She bounces out and goes. Like Santini has a good record fresh as well. So that's kind of, I thought 5-4 was a great price. Like, being honest, like Native River is getting on. He's 10, turning 11. Like when he won the last day, he bet Secret Investor by 2.5 lengths. You were all over him last weekend, the big handicap Barry. That didn't go too well, I don't think, did it? So that wouldn't be the greatest for. It wouldn't be the greatest for him now. But I think Santini will win. As I say, Frodon will lead them a merry dance, and hopefully you get a good lead into it. And if he's going to be this Gold Cup horse that we all think he could be, like Native River, surely at this stage can't be ain't like we can't be talking about him trying to win Gold Cups now. So look, for me, Santini at 5-4 is a good bet.
Andrew, I agree with Thomas. Andrew, what about you?
I'd be willing to take Santini on at the prices. He's the best horse in this race, and he'll be the only horse that has a chance in a Gold Cup come next March. I just think you look back at his reappearance run last year, where he scrambled over the line against Now McGinty at Sandown, which was thoroughly uninspiring. If that gallop at Newbury's anything to go by, the horse needs 7 miles. So I'd be willing to take him on at the prices, and I'd be with Mike here. I'd give a chance to Native River. I don't think Frodon's good enough personally. He's never a horse that I've warmed to. And Native River, he won this race. I know it cut up last year, but he won the race by 33 lengths. If he gets into a decent rhythm out in front, he might jump a few of these silly.
He was good the last day, though, Frodon, wasn't he, in fairness? Was it a career best?
I'm not sure. I'd say his Gold Cup win was a career best, but he didn't, like, before his injury or whatever ruled him out of the Gold Cup last year. He didn't look any worse than he. Oh, sorry, Frodon.
Yeah.
Oh no, well, no, like he beat.
Surely it's Cheltenham specialist, isn't he? Does all his best running around Prestbury Park.
Yeah, and he beat West Approach the last day. Now I know he's given him heaps of weight, but West Approach ran no race behind Ramses Dete and Yala Enki in a race with Discorama and stuff like that. That's not anywhere near Gold Cup form. I think any Gold Cup candidate could have easily given West Approach that type of weight. You know, West Approach would be lapped in a Gold Cup.
I think Santini will win. 253 at Navan. We're going to cover a race from Navan for Thomas Coyle. The Foxrock Handicap Chase, a grade B. We've no prices now, but some nice types in here. The likes of you can hear me. The likes of Articulum, Santurnus is in here as well. Thomas, we'll let you have a stab.
Yeah, good to see Santurnus back. His last run was second in the Kerry National to Snow Falcons 2 years ago. It's a cracking race. Chatham Street lad has been running well. Probably 2.5 mile might stretch him. I think he's a bit better at 2 mile. He's gone up £8 for winning in Cork the last day. Just flicking through them as well. The one I actually did like was Barry Connell's horse, Massey's Wood. He won well up in Down Royal over the festival that they have up there. I think you'll remember the race. I think the one down the bottom, Benefit Run, actually ran out at the last. But he won well and he's got a nice weight off 10.5. Tracy's Enniscorthy, I think is too short for him. I think he needs 3 mile every day. Crossed my mind, if they thought he was going to win a big handicap like this, he wouldn't have been 12-1 to win around Turles, in my opinion. He probably surprised them a little bit that day, but he's got a nice weight with slippers on. And the one you want me to talk about is Nobody Home. Eddie Cawley's charge. The horses are in good out form over there. He had a lovely horse that was third in the big bumper last Sunday. The cousin rode at Coyle. He's third at 33-1. A nice horse by Fame and Glory. Hopefully big things for that horse going forward. Golden Jewel was bet today. So look, the horse, he was second, but the horses are running well. The ground is major for this horse. The last day in Punchestown it was heavy and it probably didn't suit him. It's officially yielding to soft. But I think we're getting some rain tomorrow. Depending on how much comes, he's a lovely weight. Chris taking 3 off 9.13. He's 9.10, 2.5 mile at suit him perfect. The one thing about him is he's never won left-handed. Any of his wins have been Punchestown, Fairyhouse, Kilbeggan. Funny thing to say when Navan is two long straights and a left turn, but he hasn't won around there. And a few days he's gone to Leopardstown when we fancied him. He didn't really act as well, so that is just the one thing. If he goes round, he'll definitely be in the money at a big price. But just left-handed, kind of always, I don't know. Maybe it's in our head a bit more than it should be. But he'd have a chance. Yeah, definitely has a chance.
Andrew Blair, what's the best handicapped horse in the race?
I'm actually quite sweet on one in this race. A horse called Bois de Clamart for Liz Doyle. Sean Flanagan's booked. He unseated last time at Fairyhouse on his handicap debut in the race that Nobody Home ran in. I think he would have been bang there at the finish. If you look at that race back, he unseated 4 out. He jumped pretty well up until then. He'd won at Tremor Beginners. Now, the form of that race isn't up to too much, but he won it with bags in hand. I think he's in here off a mark 125. I'd be really surprised if one of these big handicaps isn't in him off that type of a weight.
Interesting. We're going to come on to Punchestown, the one.
Throw one in as well.
Absolutely, Mike.
Only because it's a horse I followed last year, and I was impressed with the way he jumped when he won at Christmas. He won the opportunity race at Leopardstown at Christmas. And it went wrong for him in a decent race last time. I would have thought there's a decent each-way squeak for a horse called Best Behaviour for Oliver McKinnon and Barry Brown. He won that race at Leopardstown. He then went and won at Navan, and it was at Naas. He fell 4 out when I thought he was going very well. And I just think he might possibly have got in under the radar, and with enough runners around, might be worth an each-way squeak.
My worry about that horse, Mike, is the yard just doesn't seem to be firing. They haven't had a winner in... I seen a stat the other day. You actually wouldn't believe it for Oliver McKinnon.
But then we've been saying the same about the Tizzars, haven't we? Until just
true enough.
And we all eat humble pie when it changes, or we go and get a haircut.
Yeah.
We're going to come on to Sunday, the John Durkan at Punchestown. It's the 140. Interesting renewal. Obviously, we don't have full decks at the moment. Shakhan Poursois entered. Don't think he's going to go here. I think it's going to be Min. And the talk is battle over Doyle could take him on. There's also been money for Chris's Dream. Chris's Dream was actually very impressive. Ran very well, I thought, up the north in the Down Royal Championship. Thomas, we'll come back to you on this one. Min obviously sets the standard if he goes here, but Chris's Dream could be interesting.
Yeah, and with that run under his belt, it's as you say, it's hard to know because a lot of these are entered in the Hilly Way in Cork as well on Sunday, so it's hard to know where it's going to go where. Yeah, battle over Doyle is definitely probably more likely to and over this trip. Allaho, he's in both places. He when Champ nailed them last year, probably if the boys could ride that, Rachel and Paul could ride that again next year, they mightn't have cut each other's throat maybe just as much. He could be a good horse to follow this year in my mind. You couldn't see Shakhan Poursois. He'll probably end up down in Cork over 2 mile. You'd more imagine over the weekend. Larichburg is interesting to see back amongst the entries as well. He would have been a leading Arkle fancy a couple of years ago, but has obviously had his problems. I think he's in Cork as well, though. Look, Sam Crow's there. If they actually all turned up, this would have been a super race. But it's probably a bit early to see what's going to run. But I'd imagine if Allaho did turn up, he'd be my fancy in this kind of. But it's hard to know. We'll know more at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Andrew, I'll ask you about this because I think when we were speaking Monday night, you said Shakhan Poursois might shorten for the Champion Chase for sitting in his box. Do you think Willie will run him this weekend?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's obviously been such a fragile horse over the last couple of years. I thought he'd be really being trained with 3 races in mind, which would have been Christmas, the Dublin Chase and the Champion Chase. Now, it would be great for the game if he ran at Cork on the weekend. I know they ran Duvan in that race the year he had a crack at the Champion Chase, so he's not against running a good horse down there. He certainly won't run in the John Durkan. I'm a big fan of Allaho as well. I think going forward, I think he's a real chance for the Ryanair this year. I just don't think they'll take on Min first time out. I think Min's probably the safest bet in this because I think he's 100% going to run. Battle over Doyen, I couldn't have it all. Always seems to win races when everyone else isn't ready, and then when everyone else is ready, he doesn't turn up. Sam Crow will just be being trained with March in mind and one crack at the Ryanair. And I think over 2.5 miles, Punchestown would have to be absolutely unraceable for Chris's Dream to have any sort of a squeak. He just lacks gears, in my opinion. The longer the better, and the softer the better for him. But Min, he's won the race the last 2 years in a row. I can't see why people love to throw stones at Min, and yet he keeps winning. So 15-8, I think, is actually a pretty good price.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I tend to disagree with you there on Chris's Dream. I thought he showed plenty of zest up the north. I think he travelled very well. Look at it, Andrew. Is there £4 in the difference? There's between the two. There's £5 in the difference on official ratings between Min and Chris's Dream. He is the one for money. Chris's Dream. Obviously, we'll know in the morning, or probably by the time this podcast is put out. But and Battle Over Doyle, Mike come on to you about him. He ran a good race up the north, and they were the two, I think, that against Min, they could be his biggest challengers in here. Who would you be with in the John Durkan?
And I think the other thing we've got to bear in mind, of course, is that the likes of Chris's Dream, that was 3 miles. We're back to 2.5, aren't we? And I think that is quite significant. I mean, Punchestown is going to be quite testing. This is the first of the chases at Punchestown on Sunday, deliberately to get them the best of the ground. And I think, as you said, Min has won it the last twice, and they know exactly what they're doing with Min. I just think Chris's Dream's a better 3 miler, bluntly, and I'm not convinced at the moment about who actually will have the speed for 2.5 miles around here. I also am fascinated to think, they put Jacques on Poursois, and they've got a decision to make, because it's got to be either Cork or wait till Christmas, because there's nothing else in the intervening period. And so it's quite an important decision to make as to whether you would want to go to Christmas on seasonal debut or not. And of course, getting into the mind of WP Mullins has proved to be mission impossible for all 4 of us, the mother-in-law and everybody else that's tried.
Yeah, the 2 lads ganging up on me there with Chris's Dream. I just look at it, just think back to 2 miles and 4 furlongs on soft ground. Thought he did travel well the last, and he could maybe surprise a few if he lined up in here. Lads, this is the time, I suppose, we're all waiting for the Nap and MB of the weekend. Mike Vince, you've been in cracking form of late. Take it away.
I will Nap Ramsey's to Telly in the Becher. I think it ticks all the right boxes. I've a lot of respect for Walking the Mill. But Ramsey's Dete will like the ground, and that's obviously wherever you look this weekend is important. I will next best, if I can go for an each way next best, I like a horse in the last at Sandown, the 335. Happily, they've swapped races around this year, because last year, you might remember, in chaotic scenes, the last was the London National, which got voided with a race where they had to rail off some of the track and half the jockeys dead. I think it was nearly 5 o'clock when we finally left. So they put the handicap hurdle on last this time. And a horse called Benson, stepping up in trip, Richard Newland, Gavin Sheehan, won twice at Hereford, low key, gets into a competitive handicap hurdle on a decent mark at a decent price. And he's an each way next best.
I'll come on to myself, sure. I'll get in there nice and early, because you mentioned that last race at Sandown. I've already said my Nap. Eldorado Allen in the King Henry VIII chase at Sandown. I've given my reasons already. I'm looking at him at maybe potentially shaping up into an Arkle contender this season. I think the race, obviously, there's plenty of pace, and I think Robbie will just sit, and the race might unfold for him. He's an excellent jumper. I think he sets the standard in that race. I think that Cheltenham run was good. I think he was getting up to beat Gumball. I think that was the debate at the time. I think he is a good horse, and there's a lot more to come from him. I think he's the way Nap of the weekend at 7-2. But I must mention, you mentioned the last race on the card at Sandown, Mike. Mr. Coffee, can't believe you're taking this horse on. 138 rated. Was surprised actually he didn't go for the Roger Fielding, but Flores obviously done the business last week at Newbury. This horse, Mike, I think he was very lightly raced, I suppose, last year. He was talked about as a Supreme or Ballymore horse. I think 138 in here. I think he could move well past that mark. I think he's very well handicapped. He won nicely over course and distance last time, and I think he'll back up here. Thomas Coyle, Nap and MB the weekend.
My Nap going to be Santini. I think 5-4 is a great price. He just wins for me. And I'm going to.
I thought you don't tip up horses that are shorter than 3-1.
I tipped up Ballyadam last week. He won, so look, to keep the ball rolling.
That's because she wears it. Go on, yeah.
She was afraid to turn up, wasn't she? Look, yeah, he wins, and I'm going to MB. Nobody home. I think off that lightweight, if we don't get the rain tomorrow, he'll definitely be thereabouts at a price.
Andrew Blair White.
Yeah, my nap comes in the first at Sandown, or the 115 at Sandown. A Gary Moore horse called 50 Ball. He's off mark 120. Jockey claiming 7. I think he's very well in. The Moors have a very good record at Sandown as well. My next best comes in the Grand Sefton at Aintree. A horse called Springtown Lake for Philip Hobbs. He's 10-1. I think that's a fair each way price.
So if we have a bit of work to do, Angel, Blair White and the Apies to play on Saturday. One of these.
Yeah, well, I'm in the relegation battle once again. So I started last year like that, though, until Simply the Bet started running on Saturdays, and then I just gradually got up the table.
I had a good start last year, and I'm disputing bottom of the table with yourself. Lads, that concludes episode 7 for the season. If you haven't liked the video or subscribe to the channel, make sure to do so. You know the drill. We're back every Thursday between now and the end of the season. Another cracking weekend's racing. The very best of luck. Leave your selections below so we know what you're up to. We know if you're winning and we know if you're losing. Lads, thanks very much, and we'll be back next Thursday.
Cheers.